Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we tackle the issues, those issues that affect the customer experience at your store. Whether it's the front of the store, the back of the store, or somewhere in the middle, doesn't really matter because the greater the experience they have, the more they come back to you for everything they need when they need it. And they'll bring their entire tribe, their friends, their family, their coworkers, anybody and everybody in their orbit, they'll bring to you because you'll be their car guy or their car gal. And I'm very fortunate. I have a very large connection group, LinkedIn connections, colleagues, friends that come on every week to share with us what they do or what they've done to improve the customer experience in their stores, which will help you in your store. Real actionable items that you can use starting tomorrow. So Jonathan, David, welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us, Paul.
Thanks for having us, Paul.
Starting with Jonathan, give us a little bit of your background, how many years in automotive, some of the roles you've done, and how you got to this point.
Sure, yeah. So this month is 30 years and 1 month in the car business. So started off in the car business selling cars 30 years ago, 1 month. Did that for a few years, got into the finance department, did finance for about 10 years or so. And then from there moved on to the sales desk, sales manager, general sales manager, eventually general manager of dealerships. And just recently in the last year, I've taken a step back and gotten back into the finance office to rediscover an original passion that I had for doing this. And it's been a great journey.
Awesome. Well, welcome. 30 years. That's a long time, man. David.
So I'm 27 and a half years in the business. I started as a wash boy in service and graduated to detailer and then sales, finance, sales manager, general sales manager. Kind of same thing. Wanted to take a step back and go back into, F&I towards the latter part of my retail experience. So 18 years retail now, almost 10 years on a little bit different side, reinsurance side, training in stores across the U.S. And training with dealers and seeing a completely different side of things now. So been doing this for quite a long time.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. And fun fact, David and I met while we were both doing training at a store up in New Hampshire. He was doing F&I training and I was there to do sales and service training. So that's how we met. Found out we're both from Connecticut. Next thing you know, we're boys.
We're boys. We're doing selfies. We're having fun.
That's it. That's it. So again, welcome to the show. The box, that interesting 45-minute span you have with meeting a perfect stranger. And within that amount of time, kind of build rapport with them, figure out what they're about, and keeping them from whipping out the bag of garlic because a lot of people come in, they're apprehensive, they've had bad experiences somewhere, and a lot of times they've spent so much time with the salesperson, by the time they finally give in and buy the car, they just want to get out of there. And the finance office is an interesting place, right? There are different ways of looking at it. Some customers look at it as a place where the guy's going to try to sell me something. I look at it the opposite side. Now, I've been in store and I've been on the vendor side for many years, like you, David, the same, right? So yeah. I look at it as a way to enhance their vehicle, right? If the average car is on the road 12 and a half years or longer today, then you know what? Stuff does go. I bought a new car a couple of years ago, and that car has had $7,500 worth of warranty work done to it. There's no way I was going to keep that car out of warranty. So for me, an extended warranty gives me peace of mind, right? That's an enhancement. That's not something that I just blow money on. But the process is a very interesting one, right? And I believe that everything starts with communication. You have people, what are some of the what's the age range, Jonathan, of the people that come into the box?
Oh, gosh. I mean, age ranges will range anywhere from 18 years old to 95 years old sometimes.
Wow. People still driving at that age? How about you, David? What do you see?
Listen, we're saying the same thing. You know, it's funny you laugh. My next door neighbor's about 88, and he's still driving. So, but the reality is, yeah, you know, not too long ago, I remember sitting in a training session, and we had a young girl come in. She was 19, 20 years old, and her father was walking her through the process, but gave her the, hey, you do it. I'm sitting here to help you out. But yeah, it's all age groups as long as you're legal, and you have credit, you're ready to roll. I mean, it's every age group, every bracket, and it's what we do.
Now, each age group has a different communication style, right? I'll call some people that I know, and I know they have the phone because the phone is an appendage. They don't leave without the phone. I'll physically call them. It'll go to voicemail, but I'll immediately get a text back. Right? That's their preferred communication method. I've been in a store where there was a F&I manager in his mid-20s that was having some issue with an older customer. Older is relative because I'm older now myself. So we won't mention the age bracket. But the point is, there was a communication breakdown. And fortunately for the store, they had another person that was the same demographic as this customer, and they were able to bring that person in and kind of smooth out the wrinkles, right? Now, from a training standpoint, most F&I trainers get what kind of training?
Process, presentation. I think we talked about this a little bit, is, what the general steps are to a sale.
Yeah.
That's usually what you get, with how to set up paperwork, how to get through the computer system, things of that nature.
But how often do you see somebody get the quote unquote soft skills training where, like a Dale Carnegie or something like that, where they're able to establish better communication with somebody that's 30, 40 years older than them? Do you see much of that at all?
It doesn't happen. It's something that even us coming up through the business, right? It's something that we I think learned how to adapt. We learned how to go through those motions, but we don't train on those things. We don't send them to training. We don't train on how to be, more personable, more soft, take in all of the, watching the body language and the things that they're saying and, tailoring it back a little bit, changing the tone in your voice. Like, we never really had that training. That's not training. Even today, we don't talk about that training when we're working with our, our guys out in the field. We should. There should be more of that, right? So
now,
yeah, I can't think of a single company that I've worked for in the car business that trains in communication skills. It's just not. It's an afterthought for them. It's not something that you see done, and it's so important. Like you said, it's just no matter who you're dealing with, every person I gave my business card to, my business card has my office number, my extension, it has my cell phone number on it, and it has my email address. And I always start off by telling them, whatever your preference of communication is, you can reach me on either one of these three methods.
Because you have 45 minutes realistically, and within that period of time, you have to establish some kind of rapport. You've got to do some kind of discovery. Then you have to, that discovery leads you down the path of knowing which products would be beneficial to that particular customer. And then you have to present those products in such a way that it's not combative or you're not attacking them, right? And then you've got to print paperwork, or if you do e-contracting, generate paperwork. Some dealerships will hand somebody a flash drive with all the documents on there. More of the ones that I see still print everything out, right? So much for a paperless society. So that's not a lot of time. When you break down each item that you have to do, it gives you what, 10 minutes per item, maybe?
Maybe that, even 10 minutes, if you break it down, Paul, that's even longer than it should be per option. You talking about, how the customer sees things. Customers also interpret and perceive things differently as well. Some of us guys like to draw a picture for the options that are available to enhance the value build, right? Like, I'm going to show you how you're going to use it. Some F&I managers like to draw on a piece of paper so people can see, you know, some people are more perceptive that way. You know, and I think there's pluses and minuses to both ways. And, you know, some of our strengths sometimes in the F&I office is knowing when, hey, okay, hold on, I got a shift here. All right, I'm trying to explain something or build a picture of this customer, but they're not understanding. You know, that sometimes you got to be able to convert and say, well, let me show you on paper. Let me show you how this makes sense, why this makes sense. And somebody can visualize it that way. Because just talking sometimes and trying to build that picture up here doesn't always compute to the client, right? So, you know, those are things that, you know, we talk about time, 45 minutes. You know, most F&I offices now have 5, 6, 7 options where there's a lot of value, especially with technology and, you know, everything that's out there. So, you know, I like to look at the window of being able to show people what their options are really in 3 to 6, 3 to 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Presentation, like to get through that in order to optimize. Because listen, our window period, right, of having them comfortable, you know, or having them see the big picture, it's not that full 45 minutes. You still got to print paperwork. You got to verify all the information. You got to make sure that these customers settle in and are comfortable. Like I try to coach my guys too. Like, hey, when somebody comes into your office, it's really important that you serve them. You make them feel like they're in your house, right? Can I pull out the seat? Can I get you a water, a coffee? Can I get you a tea? You know, so that's going to take a few minutes. And then getting them to settle in. You want them to ultimately sit down and kind of mirror your behavior, mimic your, you know, here we are, we're talking on here, right? Like we want to be able to sit back and relax and have this conversation with a client as much as we can. So our window of opportunity and making sure they're comfortable, and it's not just about them being comfortable. What about us being comfortable with them, right?
Yeah.
If we can't get comfortable with our customer, if we don't know about them enough, then how can we be successful with the client, right? So I think it's a two-way street with, you know, our time, paperwork, and everything else to make sure that the experience isn't just about selling, right? And that's what we're kind of talking about here. It's about adapting and finding out what the client really understands or doesn't understand. And maybe we're moving too quick. We need to slow it down, transition, pivot. Hey, I think they understand this a little bit. I saw that eye raise, right? I saw them hold on. Body language, right? So, okay. Hey, did you have a question? Is there something I could help you with there? It seemed like you know, so you have to understand in the process, you want to make sure that you're answering the questions in a timely manner, an efficient manner, you know, but so they understand, and keep everything going nice and smooth, right?
Now, when you've been doing it for a while, you develop another sense, right? And I harp on the communication thing because that's important. There are different styles of communication. Some people are audible communicators, some people are visual communicators, and some people are kinesthetic, where they need to touch, feel, hold something, right? So when you spoke to, sometimes you need to draw it for them, right?
Yeah.
Know the person in front of us, what kind of communicator they are, right? We don't know.
100%.
Visual, kinesthetic, are they audible? So I think being able to communicate and reach them on all those levels, incorporating maybe a handout or something that they touch or they're part of, that just helps you to reach everybody. Because if we have somebody that's a kinesthetic learner that's got to touch stuff and you don't present anything that they touch or see, like in paper or something you can hand to them, you may not ever make that connection. And as a seasoned F&I person, you kind of know a little bit when they come in. The person that comes in with a flip phone, you know, they may not be, and you laugh, but there's
slow it down, baby. Slow it down.
Slow it down. And you know, the big desk, the digital desk, or the big screen, that might not be their preferred method of communication, right? That person might need to see a piece of paper with some stuff on it.
100%.
Right? Jonathan, how
Yeah.
do you have the opportunity to come out and greet the customer before they come into the box and kind of introduce yourself and set the stage?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I learned the value of the interview in the year 2000 when I went through F&I school. That's just 25 years ago, and how effective it is to break that ice with that customer. It's like walking into a doctor's office. You know, they're just sitting out there and they're nervous until you come out there and you break that ice with them, and then how instrumental that tool is of doing that interview with those customers, because that you know, when you're in the finance office, like Dave says, you got 6-7 minutes of attention. That's it. And if you haven't discovered most of that stuff before they come in there, then it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Right.
You have to do that interview, and you got to ask those questions. And like in your chart, it's framing that experience for the customer. It's letting them know, hey, listen, it's going to be 10 minutes before you're in the finance office with me, where we're going to finish up your paperwork over there. And if you tell them 10 minutes, make sure they're in your office in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Set the expectation, but then don't let them down. Once you get in there, like Dave says, you've got 6-7 minutes of attention, and you got to get right into it. And you got to get right into building the value and presenting those options to them and customizing that, and asking those questions on that interview is so instrumental to that. I can't even.
Now, the discovery of knowing what adds value to that particular person, that's really important, because if I have somebody in front of me that at some point in their ownership experience had a tranny go out of warranty and had to spend $6,000 or $7,000, or had an engine go that they had to spend $10,000 on, that's important to know, because that's the person that is more likely to see value in some of these protection plans. Right now, there are some desking tools that have a kind of a questionnaire or survey, but they don't all have that. What are some of the best practices that you guys see in finding out some of that information before they come into the office?
Well, for me, it's a purchase order. It's a purchase order that has all the information that I need on there, and I can tailor my interview based on everything that's on there and ask them all the questions. It's just become muscle memory to me now over the years of what I need to ask them. How many miles they're driving their cars. How do you defer unforeseen mechanical expenses? And these are all things that you're doing on an interview before they're coming in, because those are the questions that need to be answered.
Because you have financial products and you have mechanical products, right? And you're really pitching, if you will, all of that. But it's very helpful to know. Not all desking solutions have some kind of survey like that. Do you see sales? Is there any process that you've seen over the years where salespeople find out some of that information and kind of relay that to management? What's some of the stuff that you've seen over the years?
Well, I train my salespeople to do that stuff. I train them to pass along that information. Listen, a salesperson has an hour, sometimes an hour and a half of time advantage with that customer. They've gotten to know that customer, so you rely a lot on that. Exactly, you rely on that relationship that they have with that customer to get you that information that you need. We've got 5-10 minutes of discovery, where they've got a couple hours, like you said, of discovery.
And
so it's communicating with your salespeople.
A really good tool too is their trade-in, right? I think half the deals come in have a trade-in, and if the salespeople are kind of trained in such a way, to have that conversation. You get a car that comes in with 200,000 miles, and there's some issues, or the car looks really good. You can learn a lot from either what you see or don't see, right? Which gives you intel on that customer as to what might represent value to them.
Well, the big thing there too, Paul, is, doing that trade walk when somebody does have a client with a trade-in. Hey, folks, let's head outside, take a look at your trade-in. And, while you're out there, just, having a nice, easy look at this little area, that little area. And it has, hey, by the way, did you happen to have the paint and interior protection on the vehicle when you purchased this one? You know, you got 200,000 miles out of this. You know, did you have the extended service contract to keep this thing going this long? You know, little questions like that, you know, and they ask, well, why do you ask? Well, you know, you just put you in a position where obviously the car looks great. Looks like you took care of the vehicle. You know, those are added values. So if you did it before, then you can see value in possibly having it again. You know, but doing that trade walk, going around and asking questions, and hey, car could be worth more money because you had the service contract, you had the vehicle taken care of, and, you know, all those other things too. But those points of contact that we like to talk about when you're out there doing those things, open up the conversation again, you know, lets the customer know you're paying attention to, you know, the entire, you know, trade-in, the entire process. You know, and that could also help you find out what might be important to them. You know, you see a wheel that, hey, might be pretty messed up, you know, or something like that. Oh, did you have the tire and wheel coverage on that? You know, what happened here? You know, ask the question, you know. So it just opens up other avenues that are not abrasive, you know, having a general question, fact-finding mission that can really help out, you know, in the entire process as well. We were, you know, just planting little seeds along the sales journey, you know.
It's largely education, right?
Yep.
We've gotten away from the hammer selling and more on education, and keep it simple, right? This is what this product does. This is how it protects you. This is what that product does. This is how it protects you. You know, the cars have gotten so sophisticated today that there's really no cars that don't have some kind of mechanical issue. I don't care what it is. You know, my car, I thought, oh, you know, I'm buying a brand new car. I dealer service it, you know, whatever it needs, whenever it needs it, go ahead, do it. Right.
Listen, we've been having the conversations now. Listen, not just in the store itself. You know, when you're looking at the technology piece, you know, we're talking about that, you know, mechanical electronics and technology, computers, and, you know, hate to talk about the other side, but body shops, right? You're going in and now you're having a general work, but now with, hey, we're going to have to have the sensors programmed. We're going to have this programmed. And next thing you know, a regular body shop, you know, bill that could be X amount is double, triple that because of the electronics that are involved, right?
Right.
I think that's our biggest thing. And, you know, I've never, in all the years I've done it, I've never wanted to make somebody feel uncomfortable or scare them, right? Scare them into buying something. But I want to let you know, like, you know, a typical car has 50 to 100 onboard computers. It's not, you know, it's not a joke anymore. Like, there's a lot of technology in here. And if you're looking at an EV or a hybrid, it could be 3 times that number. You're talking 150 to 300 onboard computers that are really driving that vehicle. What happens if one goes, right? So these are things that we want people to see the value. We're not trying to scare you into it, but, you know, understanding that people do get a little scared sometimes with technology, and, you know, they might have a question. Well, hold on a second. Is that switch covered? Is that Bluetooth covered? Is that Navi covered? Is that sensor, my rear parking sensor, and the cameras at each corner of the car that show me is all that covered? Yeah, it's covered for 3 years, 36. You know, so there's questions. What's that?
But then what?
Exactly. And that's, you know, that's the questions. And of course, depending on manufacturers and stuff, you have a little bit more, you have a little bit more time or, you know, than that. But, you know, the big question is just like you said earlier, you know, most people now are in a car for how long? 12 and a half years.
Yeah. Right? That's how long the car's on the road.
Listen, for the first time in my career, I bought a car, right? I leased cars for my whole career. I'm in the business, right? But there's a breaking point where sometimes owning the car is still a better way, you know. So I've had my car for 5 years. I've got the extended service contract on it because guess what? I know I'm going to have it for another 5, 6, 7 years. I've already had it for 5.
Right.
You know, so, you know, a lot of things have changed. Business has changed, the adaptation, but making sure you understand your client's needs. And I think that's really what comes back to it again. And trying to keep them protected, peace of mind. I always call it peace of mind. Like, hey, listen, I just
worry free.
I don't want you to, I don't want you to come back and say, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? Like, listen, this is why we offer it to you now, because a little bit in your payment now is going to help you breathe later. Because, you know, if you're having a hard time with that $600-700 a month, $800 a month car payment now, right, which is higher than it's ever been, right? What are you going to do if something does go wrong? And now you have your $800 payment, $600 payment, $700 payment on top of a $1,200, $2,000, $5,000 repair. How do you keep that car? How do you get to work? So these things that we talk about, you know, service contracts and covering yourself, give you peace of mind. Just like you said, it's comfort. It's a breathe. Breath of fresh air to know that I don't have to worry, you know, something happens, you know. Go ahead.
So Jonathan, finance to lease to cash, what are you seeing these days?
Well, right now it's definitely not a leasing market. The rates just don't support it. You know, leasing is so driven by interest rates. And I think, you know, in this post-pandemic time, you know, what the pandemic has done to the leasing market itself and to dealerships, it's really changed everybody's business model, because none of them want to lease anymore, and they're not incentivizing it. Everybody's financing or cash. I mean, the amount of cash that I handle every single month is unbelievable. I mean, I'm 40% cash deals, and
wow, we're talking
it's a huge
real
number.
cash, not a site
Real
trap
cash.
check from somebody else.
Yeah. Not outside financing. Like
Cash across the
Yeah.
industry is way up.
Yeah, I've got a cash counting machine in my office. Let's put it that way.
Wow. So if 60% finance, then that's a good opportunity.
It is. It's a great opportunity.
Are you seeing 75 month
leasing.
terms? A lot of people do that these days.
We're seeing mostly 75-month terms. Yeah.
Now
you mentioned before that 12 and a half years average
cars on the
life that people are keeping cars on the road. I mean, I wonder how much that's gone up since the pandemic. I mean, that number has to have gone up substantially.
Well, that's the most current one now. Right now,
Yeah.
12 and a half years is the average amount of time on the road.
I believe the beginning of the pandemic, it was the average car on the road, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was 8 years. When I saw the stats a few years back, I think in the beginning it was 8 years. Now up to 12 and a half.
So when
amazing.
you have, you know, there are ways to, we always try to be different than the other guy or the other gal, right? A model whatever at dealership A is the same at dealership B, dealership C, dealership E, right? So we always try to be different. We offer value, right? By just how we approach the customer is one thing, but the other thing, there are some tools as well. Now, some people have luck with it, some people don't. Okay, if the average term is 75 months, there's something known as a biweekly payment, which some dealerships use. Very few dealerships actually that I see use it. There are some companies that they haven't had good results with. Others they have, but a 75-month payment on a biweekly, you could cut 6 months off of your term by doing that, because just like a mortgage, if you make an extra payment on your mortgage once a year, it cuts that mortgage down. Well, I think it's 7 years or something like that. So that's an opportunity there. And another way too, do you bundle or do you present 3 or 4 different options? What do you see out there?
You know, I don't have a one size fits all for everybody.
Okay.
I have to tailor my presentation to the person that's in front of me. You know, and it's based upon the discovery and that interview that you have. But I bundle things sometimes. But you know, we have our menu that I have set up with your standard products that we have on there. And depending on the situation that I have in front of me, I'll bundle some of those items. You know, I'm also working to get some other products in here that are going to bundle themselves, which is coming pretty soon. But again, you got to customize everything to the person that's in front of you.
Now, and this has been this way forever and probably will never change. Everybody wants it, but nobody wants to pay for it. Right?
So comes down, comes down to value, right? And what the perception is. You asked about bundling. There's a lot of options out there now that you can build value in the separate option, and then you could parlay it into the bundle option. A lot of guys like us, a lot of companies like ours, we like to do a 5-in-1 bundle package now, that if you bought them all separately, it put your payment up exponentially, right? Where, the bundling, and you put that all together, you build that much more value, right? Because people want to see value. If people see value in it, they'll buy it. That's really what it comes down to. So how do you give somebody a lot of value, a lot of bang for the buck to say, okay, wow, that's it. So when you talk about bundling, Paul, there's a lot of great options out there, to build value so people can perceive it as such. And just like you say, people love it, but what happens when it pushes that budget, right, to where they don't want to go. So that's where all the question always comes: where do they see value? What's the best value for each individual client? Because again, you have to adapt.
Right.
I talk to F&I managers, Jonathan, and a lot of guys, and they say, hey, listen, you're running 40-45% service contract penetration, right? You're doing a great job. That's a great number. However, what about the other 45 to 50% that you're pushing, or you want to try to get that service contract? Because we see a ton of value in it, right? But what if the client sees the other 45 to 50% see the value in the bundle package, or they see it in the paint and fab? Like, we don't want to, there might be value there where it's more comfortable for the client payment wise, So, and those are things that you have to pay attention to as well when you're in the F&I office is, how do we break it down? Sometimes going the bundle, maybe you have to pull back a little bit. You have to find that sweet spot that the customer's comfortable with, and then tailor it to them. I always like to say, don't make sure you're doing what's best for the client.
Yeah.
If you do what's best for the client and they genuinely understand you're trying to work with them to get them the best value based on what they need, everything works out for everybody. You don't want to push one way or another, because that's just not in everybody's best interest.
When you have so little time with somebody, experience tells you or guides you in some of the conversation that you have. Word tracks are critical, and we'll get into some of the word tracks in a moment. But another thing too is, really finding out or sizing up, can they really afford it, right? And a good way to find that out is if you're presenting, let's say, a 75-month or an 84-month payment, and you say to them, hey, that's a long time to be out in a car loan. If I do it for 62 months, the payment goes to this. Okay. And I don't know how many times you've seen it, but there are times where the customers say, yeah, I can do that. Well, right there, that gives you a lot of information, because if the customer can do that higher payment, and maybe you missed something on connecting the value for the product to that customer's ownership journey, right? Maybe you can settle somewhere in between and have that fall within the payment. You see where I'm going with that?
It's always, we always try to do a 2-payment, repayment option, give them 2 different terms, whether it's, like you said, if they were looking at a 60-month, I can give you 66 or 72, or you give them the 72 and the 75, if you're allowed to do that, because it's just an option, but you want to show them that there's other payment terms. We talk about the 62, right? And I think a lot of us miss it. A lot of banks will allow you in between. You can do a 64, a 65, a 66, a 67, a 68. So again, finding what works payment-wise for that client. You don't always have to do the 72. You don't always have to do the 60. You can do in between sometimes as well.
Word
Yeah.
track.
Oh, you mentioned before about biweekly payments. I
Yeah.
think that anybody who's not utilizing that as a tool is out of their mind. It's one of the best finance tools that you have at your disposal, and the impact that it has for customers it's amazing. It really is. Their reaction, they love it. They absolutely love it.
And you can be pretty sure that most of the competition isn't offering that. So if I have a customer in front of me and I say, hey, I'm going over the terms. Okay, you agreed to these terms, this many months, this payment, this and that. That's great. I want to run something by you. I saw on your application, you get paid biweekly, right? Every 2 weeks you get paid. I don't know if this is something that you would entertain, but let me share it with you because I've seen customers get value from it. Okay, that 75-month term that you're comfortable with, if we can tie and this is an automatic ACH payment, right? If we can tie the payment to when you get paid, you're essentially making 2 payments per month on the same amount. Instead of that being a 75-month term, that could cut your term down to 69 months. Or conversely, I know you said that the 120,000 mile or 200,000 mile protection was a little bit out of reach. That might bring it right back into reach for you. Right. So yeah, a lot of people don't do that. And the other David said bi-monthly, bi-weekly payment schedule when I used my credit union was amazing with my direct deposit. It's so easy to do. And the beautiful thing about it is when people like to talk about real estate, cars, and sex. Those are the 3 things that people like to talk about. Not necessarily in that order, depending on the crowd you're in. All right.
Yeah.
But imagine this: we're coming into summer. You're pulling into your friend's driveway at a barbecue. You say, "Hey, it looks like a great new car. How was it? Oh, how was that? How was the finance office? Did God try to sell you everything?" And now, you know what? That guy was amazing. That gal was amazing. Not only did we go over some of the things that I've had to pay out of pocket for last time, but get this. They figured out a way to save me 6 months worth of payments on something I already agreed on. I didn't have to do that, but that's the kind of service they gave me at that dealership. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend them.
100%.
Yeah.
Great option. I do it on my car.
Yeah, it's all about the experience. Yeah, you got to be different in today's market. You have to be different than everybody else because everybody has that preconceived notion of what it's going to be to go into the finance office, and the second they see that you're not that, it opens a different world for them. And you can see it. You see it in the shoulders drop down.
I said it before. I feel like it's like going to a restaurant, right? What do they work on? I hate to say it, they work on tips, right? So putting your serving them or hosting them like they're your host. Paul, you know how it is, right? The better you feel, the better that restaurant makes you feel, right? They make you feel special. They're taking care of you. That's how you earn. That's how your word of mouth. That's how you earn your tip, right? So why is that any different in what we do? Most of the places, most of the dealerships, dealer groups that I work with, the better they learn how to serve their clients on their client's term, go at their pace, the more successful they are.
Added value. I'm all about added value. Something that most dealerships don't do is a lifetime powertrain warranty. Okay. I don't know why. Maybe they didn't have the right provider. Maybe somebody screwed them up at some point. But let me tell you something. If I shop 10 dealerships, and this is not scientific, probably 8 of them are not going to offer a lifetime powertrain warranty. And now let's break down the value side of things, okay? If I buy a car that's got a 5-year 60 powertrain warranty, and I drive 15,000 miles a year. My warranty ends in 4 years. I'm done. Tutte finite, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I, on the other hand, buy a car from you that has a lifetime powertrain warranty, when does that lifetime warranty end on the powertrain? According to CDC data, I think it's about 77 years old. Okay? No joke. I think that's the life expectancy. You can Google it to confirm. So now here's how I like to drive the value, because it's all about value. It's very competitive today, and yeah, with inventory that's going to be somewhat diminished, that will affect pricing. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to value. So you have a customer in front of you that's 40 years old, and they buy their car from another dealer that does not have a lifetime powertrain warranty. Their warranty is essentially over in 4 years. Done. Right? Now, they buy a car from you, that 40-year-old person, and you can do the math for your customer because it always will work out in their favor. If life expectancy is 77, that means their warranty on the powertrain from the car they buy from you, and the powertrain, that's the expensive stuff, the motor, the transmission, the drive axles. Their warranty with you is 37 years. If you divide 4 years into 37, that means at a 40-year-old person buying a car from you with the lifetime powertrain warranty, your warranty is 9.25 times longer than the warranty from the other guy or the other gal. Do you really think they're going to give a shit if you're $400 or $500 higher in price than the other dealer?
It's all about value. It's all about what you can get out of it, right? It's all about longevity.
So the opportunity is there for dealers to set themselves apart and not just set themselves apart, but increase sales. You know, that's a big consideration for me, the lifetime powertrain warranty. The cars that I bought have pretty much all had that. And when I shopped, a couple of years ago, when I wanted to get a new car, that was certainly a consideration. That, along with my dealer, shameless plug, Bob Alvine of Premier Subaru in Brantford, Connecticut, they treated me like gold, and they honored every promise before, during, and after the sale. Right? I had issues. I don't worry about it. They take care of it. So if you're a dealership and you don't offer that, take a look into it, because it's really not that much money. Right? And you could seed that right into your reinsurance program.
Listen, we have,
like you said, I work for a dealer that has a lifetime powertrain warranty, and we're still 60% warranty penetration.
There you go. The wrap, right?
Yeah.
Added value. We have a lot of stores that do the lifetime warranty because it is a value builder. It's great for them. Keeps the customers happy. They buy with confidence. We have other stores that don't just do a lifetime. They also do, a 3-year key, a 3-year, 1 year, key replacement. Keys are no longer $6-7 at Lowe's and Home Depot.
No.
So they let the customer know, hey, listen, we'll cover your key for a year. You have the option if you want to go 5-6 years. Keys now are $600, $700, $800, depending on what you're programming into that key. It's a mini computer. It's a mini iPhone. That key you put in your pocket, it does a lot of stuff nowadays. So, you have some stores that do prepaid maintenance programs. Keep them coming back. Make sure the cars are taken care of, especially if they're, right? Especially if they're doing the lifetime power, the lifetime powertrain. Let's do a maintenance program to back it up. So
the maintenance program is such a good value, right? When I bought the car, I said, yeah, I'll buy the prepaid maintenance package. On the last one I used it, I said, hey, you know what? We have the special going on it. I bought it again. I'm planning on servicing this car with Premier Subaru as long as I own it. And it costs me minimal by having the prepaid maintenance. And it's smart on their part because, yeah, maybe they take it on the chin by what they offer it for. But guess what? Whatever the car is going to need, the car's in their shop, I'm going to do it.
Paul, what did you do? You bought that prepaid maintenance now, right? What have we seen over the last few years? Inflation, right? Went through the roof.
Yeah.
Right? Pricing of everything's gone up. You buy today, you buy a 4, 5, 3-year maintenance plan, you're locking in at today's price.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to worry about inflation. You don't have to worry about, the value of the dollar. I hate even to bring it up, but hey, guess what? You just took the opportunity to get your prepaid maintenance now. You don't have to worry about next year. You don't have to worry about the next year after that because guess what? You're locked in. Right?
Yeah.
So again, value proposition, right? Understand everybody knows now. I mean, everything in our everyday lives is going up, right? Car insurance, homeowners insurance, all this stuff we can't because inflation's gone through the roof. So if you're able to lock in a price on something that you can say, okay, for the next 5, 6 years, I don't have to worry about the labor cost. I don't have to worry about the parts cost. I don't have to worry about any of that. And I'm locked in. Absolutely. You're winning. That's a win.
True.
Win-win. Everybody wins.
Everybody. So, the prepaid maintenance, the lifetime warranty, being able to, if you have the option to, extend that, do a wrap on that powertrain, whatever you have to do. I mean, you're locking in at today's price. You're locking in at today's labor. And you don't have to worry about it. That's the nice part about all of these things.
Now, verbiage is key, right? So when we present our products, the worry-free option, the premium option, the gold, whatever the thing is, those words matter. And something as simple as with a key, includes reprogramming of the key. Right? I'm thinking programming or reprogramming. I'm thinking that's expensive. But if that's included,
don't have to worry about it.
It's pretty much a no-brainer. Another, so vehicle service contracts is probably I would say the biggest opportunity for dealers and for customers.
I mean, for everybody, we just said something before, win-win, right? The customer wins. He doesn't have to worry about it. The dealership doesn't ever have to worry about a customer being upset if they bring it into the service department and now something's broken and the customer has to come up with a chunk of change. Parts are paid for. The service contract is a win-win-win for everybody involved, because it keeps peace of mind. It keeps customers calm. It keeps them, coming back and not having to worry about anything. And it's a win-win for everybody.
Now, another thing I want to bring up is that with different products, okay, a nightmare scenario for customers, which is easily addressed, is we've all heard of the customer that comes into the service drive and says, hey, something broke on my car. I think I have some kind of warranty coverage, but I'm not sure what. Can you tell me? And more often than not, the service advisor has no idea, none, less than zero, what that customer purchased. And to the customer, that service advisor is the brand. That's who they're interacting with. Okay. So in a lot of stores, that leaves them with an option of, and service advisors, I'm sure, love this. Let me go off the service desk and let me go try to find out from the F&I manager who's 3 deep or just finished delivery and they've got to get some paperwork in and they're getting ready for the next person, because if that next person doesn't come in on schedule, then that becomes a CSI issue, right? I'm going to give a shameless plug for my friend Steve Apicella. It's a company called Your Dealer Experience. And what they have, it's a product agnostic. You have an app. Hey, there's an app for that. They have an app that houses all of the different F&I products. from whoever the vendor is, so that the customer has it, and when they'll know, right? You know, hey, I have an issue with my wheels, I have an issue with my key, the windshield, whatever the case may be. They're educated at the store about this product, and they can go right in there, see what coverage they have, and they can even start a claim right within that app. Have you guys heard of that product at all?
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot more of that now. We have a couple companies that we're mirrored up with, that we're, you know, working with, that offer, you know, I think everybody's got their twist on it and how they're offering it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely out there. I think it's a valid point, because that is always, listen, I get the questions. I get a call. Hey, can you help me here? Our customers in F&I, you know, our customers in service department, and they say they have a service contract. You know, we're not sure if it's yours or if it's this or if it's that. You know, can you look it up for me? And, you know, let's see what's going on, you know? So yeah, and to have that app where you just jump right in, you could pull it up, you link it to the store, you link everything right there, and pull it. Oh, here you go. It's right here.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Let me hold on a second. Let me pull it. And then they know who they have to call. They know how they have to start the claim form. So yeah, it's, you know, it's been the biggest thing, especially with, you know, more people are buying F&I, you know, options, you know, in coverages to protect themselves. It needs to be readily available and easily available, because there's a lot of providers out there. I hate to say it, right? Everybody's in the game. Everybody wants to be able to help out. So there's a lot of providers out there. And unfortunately, the customers are kind of left like, okay, I remember I bought something.
Right.
Where did I put that paperwork? Was it in my glove box? Is it back at home? You know, so to have that app, you know, or have it readily available to you, you know, on your phone, because your phone's always with you, right?
Always.
Unless you got that flip phone we were talking about, you know. But yeah, so it's a great app. I think we'll start to see more traction with that over the next couple of years, and I think it's going to help the customer experience.
Yeah.
You know, in our business a lot. You know, making it seamless, easier, making them happy, getting things done. Because as we all know, time kills everything, right? So the quicker we can respond, quicker we can be engaged, quicker we can understand and provide everything that the customer's asking or the customer needs. Again, it's winning. Everybody's winning. You know, we've learned to be solution providers, right? Do it as quick as possible, make the customer as happy as possible. You know, do everything within reason that makes sense. And the quicker we do all those things, having the app for, you know, hey, I bought 3 different service contracts. I bought tire and wheel, bought the service contract, and I bought the prepaid maintenance. Here it is. Here's my doc number. Here's, you know, the amount, blah, blah, you know, the whole 9 yards. It is priceless. It's great.
We're a right now, got to have it quick society. Right.
100%. Instant gratification.
Now, Jonathan, of the people that don't purchase the warranty the first time when they're picking up the car, their strategy on approaching them afterwards, is there a service drive strategy that you find works better than another? What are you saying?
Well, you know, you have to have buy-in from service advisors to do that, really, because those are the ones that are running into it every single day. You know, you can follow up, you know, with your customers. You know, when you're dealing with a high volume dealership, it gets a little difficult. You know, when you're always trying to play catch up. But there is definitely a lot of opportunity there. For maximizing that area. You know, and especially nowadays, I mean, with service contracts, you've got so many different options.
Right.
You know, I mean, we use 2 different insurance companies for warranties. We have the ability of selling them a service contract and a 0% payment plan, and there's no credit check. Everybody's approved. So even if you have the worst credit in the world, you're approved. And you know, you can always maximize that way as well. You know.
Now, it's because the cars are on the road so long. That's a critical strategy to have. And to your point of in a busy store, it might not be as easy to follow up with it. However, with the advent of artificial intelligence, everybody's favorite buzzword today, AI, and to the people that know it and understand it, it is AI as opposed to just something mechanical, you can automate a lot of this process, right? You can set it up in such a way, you can set up an AI agent, if you will, that will pursue your warranty business, your extended service contract business automatically 24/7 in such a way as to engage with people better than some people on the phone do. I hate to say it, but sales and the telephone, there's kind of been a disconnect here lately. Maybe, I don't know if it's just since COVID, but I don't see a lot of salespeople on the phone today, right? And the reason it's important for you to get that process in order, and you can automate it, like I said, with AI, is because everybody is getting bombarded today and have been for quite some time with all of these aftermarket warranty companies that are worthless. But guess what? If people didn't buy them, they wouldn't be cranking out as many of these spam emails or phone calls every day, right? People do buy them. And when they find out that that's a crap policy that they spent money on, they find that out when the person in your store at the advisor desk tells them, I'm sorry, that's not covered, or we have to wait for an adjuster to come out, or they don't authorize new parts, or it's got to be a brand X aftermarket part only from these Eastern Bloc countries, or whatever crazy thing. I'm making that up, right? But the point
is, happening. It's happening more and more, though. These companies are selling them. I get the emails. I get emails like crazy from companies. I'm not going to mention their names. In your inbox, I get the phone calls. And it's not just us. And you're right. Setting it up. That business is there. That business is there for the taking. We've actually teamed up with a company that actually does the follow-up for our stores.
Yeah.
And they have access to the DMS. They go in, they do what they have to do. Why not? Why can't we get the business if somebody else is doing it, and make it a part of what's going on? You have some of the stores that have the BDC that they have a designated callback where they're doing it, but with AI, just like you said, there's a lot of companies now that are utilizing that. There's other marketing companies that are going after the aftermarket, or the service contracts after they've left the store. So there's definitely opportunity there, a ton.
I love that. I love that. I love where we're going with that, with AI, and especially related to that. There's so much opportunity there.
We have stores, a lot of stores now that are. I got a group that is constantly reinventing, constantly changing their platform. What was it, ChatGPT? Right? They used that, and they used that for a few months. Now they came out with another AI that they switched over immediately to this new one. And I've used it, the system, where I've gone online to one of their websites, and I literally have to call the sales director and be like, hey, I'm talking with so-and-so in our conversation. And he's laughing, he's chuckling. He goes, you're not talking with so-and-so. You're talking to AI. I'm like, what do you mean? When I tell you the responses,
they're that good.
It is mind-blowing. Yeah. My younger brother bought a car from the same company, and he was doing the whole online thing, and he calls me, he goes, hey, who's Amelia at the store? And I'm like, got ya. He got you too. Like, Amelia doesn't exist. That's AI. And he's like, there's no way. I'm like, that is not a real person. That I did it myself. I tried it out, and now you're doing it firsthand. Like, this AI is so incredible.
Yeah,
the companies and they're getting better and better, quicker. The responses
every day.
They're polite. I speak from experience. I've tried it. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Well, an hour seems like a long time, but the hour happens really fast. We've actually gone a minute over. So I want to thank you guys for joining in the conversation. Wow. To those that watch it live, thank you. To those that watch it on the replay, thank you.
Thanks for having us, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. This was great.
There's some great nuggets in here that, like I said, dealers can use starting tomorrow. And if you're not connected with Jonathan or David or myself, by all means, we welcome the connection. If we can build our community and make each other better. My friend David Rozek here, he's got a lot of knowledge and experience. So if you're not connected with him, I recommend you connect with him. Have a conversation. Everything starts with a conversation. David, you and I became friends by having a conversation at a dealership in New Hampshire.
Loved it. Now we break bread and have dinners, and we have some Fox and sodas sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's listen, the car business has definitely opened up doors and opportunities, and got to meet a lot of great people. And Paul, I appreciate you being one of them.
Thank you. So stay on after we go off for a moment. I wish you all a safe and successful next week, and we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.